everybody. Welcome to another episode on the Lessons from the Game podcast. I'm joined with my co-host, Ben Pegna, and today is our short form episode. Our theme today is Simplicity Done Brilliantly Leads to Greatness by Nekemeyer. Ben has selected this theme because we want to talk about keeping it simple, doing the simple things that lead to sustainable results and helps us to level up our performance. Ben, how are you doing, man? Let's just check in
Good.
first.
Yeah, I'm good, G. How are you? You okay?
No, great, man. It's just unbelievably warm here in Toulouse. We got a heat wave coming, and I'm just fortunate enough to be in this co-working space, and there's an aircon right above me. So really looking forward to this chat, Ben. It's been an amazing week, man. Got my workout done this morning, got that done, good sweat, and
Nice,
I was doing the whole daddy daycare for the last week. My missus went on a bit of a break, spent some time with our eldest daughter. So I had to look
Nice.
after both kids. So training wasn't always that easy, and still trying to juggle my work with family life as well, being full-time
Man,
back here in Toulouse.
Ditto. Sounds very familiar, man. Yeah, summer holidays, so a lot of juggling going on, but all good.
All right, man. Ben, obviously we were chatting yesterday and talking about, what can we give to our audience. And obviously Ben and myself, we really think in depth about what we want to share with you. This is not just a platform for us just to mouth about and just ramble about and talk a bunch of BS. It's about really giving you guys quality content and insights, So Ben, if you can maybe give us a bit of background, why was this topic today so important to you?
Two reasons, G. It's really topical because the Lions series has just happened. We've watched the Lions series, and this Lions series is built on, well, it's actually three reasons. The Lions series, and that's built on putting a team together from 4 different nations and getting them to bond very quickly, getting them to be a cohesive unit that's successful. The second thing, we've had several guests now who have come across and conveyed the same messaging about either them coaching or them playing and the coaching they received about this point we're going to make today. And the third reason is I've been coaching recently at a few different amateur teams, doing some consulting, going in, helping people. And it's really become apparent that, to me, some things are just too complex and they need to simplify things. And I thought this would be a great topic for us to discuss so that it helps people now in the Northern Hemisphere with their pre-season. Coaches listening to this in an amateur environment can digest and think, okay, well, if the Lions could put together a team in a few weeks and it wasn't the most complex game plan, and these coaches like Gary Gold and Victor Matfield and some other legends and have spoken about this topic, then what can I learn and implement myself this coming season?
Yeah, I think this is a great topic, Ben, because we do see a lot of coaches sometimes tend to overcomplicate things. They want to have these unbelievable set plays. They want to have these Instagram highlight reels, plays going viral. We do see sometimes teams having fun with, different set play moves or I like to call them trick plays.
Yeah.
Not everybody can pull them off. Look, when it comes off, it's brilliant. And I think it's a very important message, and not only just to coaches, but to players. Not always looking for the more exciting drills and always wanting just to play games. Sometimes you need to do the boring things to become a better player, become a better version of yourself, and to become a better team. But Ben, coming back to the Lions, is there anything, you just spoke about them, in a short space of time, they've managed to keep it simple and do really well. And, it's always intrigued me how a group of players, especially from different countries, can come together, obviously different cultures. So clearly they did something correct. Andy Farrell did something correct, which allowed the Lions to be, how can I say, dominant. What do you think were the key principles which allowed the Lions to be successful on this tour?
You identify the strengths of your group very quickly. You build a game model with those guys and their strengths. And so it was a very simple game model. We're going to try and be very physical, very strong, dominate in the pack, obviously dominate set piece, have a rock solid defense, chip away at them when we can. When we get into the final third, we're going to be a bit more selective with what we do, and we're going to look to expose them in certain ways using our strengths, and obviously take the points and have a world-class goal kicker. In theory, that's what you want, a world-class goal kicker who can keep the scoreboard ticking over. But to do all that, underneath the foundation has to be a unit of people who work for each other, who like being in each other's company, not always best mates, but can work together in a cohesive way and bond very, very quickly. And where possible, you build trust so that that's possible. And I think that's pretty much how you throw a team together very quickly in a short space of time. And you don't have the luxury of time, so you can't overcomplicate it. You can't have the intricacy. And I actually think that's why, on that one, I think that's why, say, Joe Schmidt needs more time with the team, because he's known for having quite an intricate game plan. And that requires a lot of people. So if you have a new fly half, for example, suddenly coming in, making his debut in the first test, which they had in Liner, then it's pretty difficult to get everything to be synchronized very, very quickly and be cohesive. So yeah, that's it in summary, I think.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, I followed the first 2 test matches. I didn't watch the third one yet. Obviously, I had to prioritize my time. My little daughter wanted to go on a bike ride, so we had to focus on that. But if I remember the second test match, Ben, Australia, they were aggressive. Honestly, they really stepped up to the line to try and meet that physicality of the Lions. And we also need to kind of acknowledge the performance of the Lions, because a lot of these players are at the end of their season. They had long seasons with their clubs. They have been playing Champions Cup. They've been in the Premiership. There are a few players that played in France, not a lot. But they come at the back of a tough season, and I don't think people really understand how significant that Lions series win is, because with the seasons worldwide, which is not aligned at the moment, it's tough on those players. You could see, the third test, I saw a bit of highlights. You can see the guys are tired. You could even see Maro Toja. He gave his absolute all. But I think it was the first time that I really saw him like, listen, he's stuffed. He's tired. And I've never seen that before, but respect to him. He always stayed in the fight. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is that with Australia, they gave themselves a fighting chance in that second test. Why? Firstly, their aggression. They stepped up to the line. They met the Lions. Their defense was good. They were on the turnover balls. They were exploiting it. They were attacking the space, identifying the space. Keeping it simple is so important. And I think there's a lot of lessons to learn from that Lions series.
Yeah, and the other thing, there were quite a few things I think they did, Australia, in the second test. I think, and we don't ever set up to, this podcast is more about the lessons, but we'll talk about a bit of the detail because it's relevant to the lesson. So I think, they only played one warm-up game against Fiji, so they were pretty underdone, Australia, by the time they came into the test match. So the first test was pretty much, they just weren't up to the speed of the Lions. They weren't ready for them. And as you said, they're coming against battle-hardened guys who played all year, and they're on this verge of being too fatigued, but they were just hanging on and probably fueled by adrenaline, the whole passion and the honour of playing for the Lions. And then in that second test, like you said, people like Will Skelton coming in, the lesson from a coaching point of view for me is a couple of things. You need to have you guys not underdone coming in, obviously, but if you have a very complex game plan and your players can't fit into it easily because they don't know it yet, but they're one of the best players or best forwards in the world, like Will Skelton, you need to find a way of simplifying your game plan to get your best players into the game. And I'm not saying that they weren't able to do that, and there's probably other reasons why Will Skelton probably or couldn't have come in, but I feel like a lot of amateur teams get this wrong. They try and make things very, very complicated unnecessarily, and with only maybe one training session a week. And so the lesson for me, when I see it being adopted by amateur or semi-pro teams who train Tuesday and a Thursday night, and Thursday is only a captain's run. The Tuesday session is just, they don't know the game plan, they don't know the structure, they don't know the shape, so they're not quite ready. Whereas if you've got a world-class player like a Will Skelton, I think you go, okay, well, how do we fit this guy into our game plan? How do we simplify it to get the best out of these people?
Yeah, it's so true. We spoke about it earlier before we jumped on to this podcast, Ben. Years ago, well, not years ago, ages ago, when I was still at the Bulls, when Heineke Meyer put the Bulls game plan into place, which was, let's be honest with you, it wasn't the most exciting game plan. It was based around the forward pack of the Bulls, and that was it. Forward pack, forward play, kicking game, defense. That was it. And those were his key fundamentals. He said we're going to have the strongest, the fittest, and most aggressive pack in Super Rugby. We're going to have the best defense, and we're going to have a very, precise kicking game. The kicking game execution needs to be the best in the competition. And, you had players back then like Akono Ndungani. You had players like Brian Abana. Unfortunately for them, the only time they got the ball was when the ball was actually in the air or from turnover. And we actually, as a Bulls team, we scored a lot of tries off turnover. Obviously, had unbelievable players like Piers Spies that could run in a 60-meter try. He was a freak of nature. But that was drilled into us. We had training sessions, Ben, where you had 20 heat shields in front of you. And you started on your own try line. That was called Hody Ball, keep the ball. And we had to go score. If the cleaners weren't on time, if you were slow, if the ball placement was done poorly, we would start over again. And that was just drilled into us. And years later, and I have mentioned this before, I played with Corey Flynn at Toulouse. And obviously, we had a great friendship. We've, over the years, always been great adversaries, either with the Crusaders or with the All Blacks. And he used to tell me, we knew exactly what was coming. We knew exactly what you guys were going to do. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. You're going to go 9 forward, sometimes 9, 10, 12, and boom, kicking game. That's it. It was that simple. But we couldn't stop it. We couldn't stop you. You guys kept them coming over the advantage line because that got drilled into us. You would run with a wall in front of you. In our forward sessions, we would do that 9 to forwards to the pod, and there was a wall in front of you. Sometimes it would be with heat shield, sometimes it would be full contact. So we were conditioned physically, mentally for that. And the result of that was won 3 Super Rugby's, 2007, 2009, 2010. So sometimes, and I think also in the modern day game, we tend to overcomplicate things because we want to stimulate players by giving these fancy set-piece plays, these trick plays, so they can be excited and they can be happy. But if you can get a group of players to understand, guys, master the basics, and the rest will come. I think that's very important.
Yeah, there's so much here, G, because on your latter point, sometimes those trick plays, if you like, or that starter play, will be the difference between two teams who are two top teams, professional teams who
sure.
Are really well conditioned. There's nothing between them. They've got world-class players on either side, and that can be that fine edge and the individual brilliance of someone like a Cheslin Colby who can break down a defence. But what we both see, and when we help amateur teams and when we go and visit, is that, as I said, they're time poor. So they're training Tuesday and Thursday. And they've got to keep everybody interested. These guys are doing it for fun. It's not a job. And I believe actually the same applies whatever level you're coaching, because you have to stimulate, as you said, your players. You have to... Enjoyment is really important. And when I say enjoyment, it's one of my key principles. But enjoyment can't be, in my opinion, confused with fun. Fun is, some people think fun is frivolous. We're just, we're having fun. You can have light-hearted moments, but enjoyable can be challenging. Enjoyable can be fun, but enjoyable is like, your target was this, and you've broken that target. Well done. That's enjoyable because you feel like you've achieved something. And when you put those moments and build on those moments, and you do it consistently, then you can get real breakthrough and really good achievements and success as a team. But what I see is, with a lot of amateur teams, they train Tuesday and they train Thursday. Thursday is a captain's run, and Tuesday they're spending a lot of time on quite a complex shape. Like they've copied a professional game shape. They've got a 1-3-3-1, and they spend an hour and a half session doing shape. And that's, a guy maybe just practicing running a tip, and that's all he does for an hour. And for me, I'm thinking, is that a good use of my time? Should we be doing other stuff? should it just be about decision making? Should we be, if we're the fittest team, if we've got a watertight defence, if we're good in the set piece, will the gaps just open up, and then we've developed skill so that we can just read what happens? And I think, and the players would maybe enjoy that more, because they're just coming, they're expressing themselves, they're really just making decisions, and it's not just learning some shape for the sake of shape. And sorry, I'm going on a bit, but invariably what happens is, when you are like that, what happens is on a Tuesday night you get the call as a coach, and it's, hi, this is Jim. Yeah, I'm not gonna make the session. So if you're practicing shape and 2 or 3 of your key people can't get back from there because they're working and they can't even get there on time, you've got to ask yourself as a coach, is this a really good use of time for the whole team? Because 2 or 3 people who are integral to the shape aren't even there. So how could we be using the time better? And how could we simplify it so that we actually are more cohesive and do what we were talking about with yourself at the Bulls or the Lions?
Yeah, there's some valid stuff there, Ben, and this is what I'm enjoying about this podcast. You just mentioned I spoke about, really where sometimes we shouldn't be obsessed with the trick plays and stuff. And this is the great thing in your philosophy, sometimes, and you are right when you're saying that those trick plays can sometimes be the difference between 2 teams who are like exactly at the same level in terms of intensity, precision, execution. And that's brilliant. But I think the main thing is what players need to realize is that if you want to become a better rugby player, there are certain things that you can control. And sometimes players are working like headless chickens. It's called a spade because I've seen this in the past as a forwards coach with the academy team at La Rochelle, and spending time with pros and also mentoring a lot of players online, is that players, when I ask them, okay, so how are you going to become a better player? No, I'm just going to train harder. I'm going to give it my best, coach. Okay, but what are you going to work on? No, whatever they tell us to do, and I'm just going to give it my best. So, for example, simplifying things. You got to do the boring things well. And let's use this, and I know it's your forte in defense. If you are a player and you want to improve your tackle technique, improving tackle technique is simple. It's not rocket science. How do you improve your tackle technique? Look, we can go deep dive into this, but which is not the case. That I think that's another pot on its own. But if you want to improve your tackle technique, you don't need to hit everybody at 100 miles an hour. After training, if you were doing 10 reps, 5 reps each side on your shoulders, working on dropping your body height, getting that knee down, not knee on the ground. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like the drop knee tackle. Everyone else has their own philosophy. But getting your body height nice and low and getting yourself into that power stance, getting your leg in between and in line with the sternum of your attacker, and then driving through with the hips. You got some great videos on tackle techniques. So guys, by the way, go to Ben's Instagram page, check that out.
Cheers,
but working on each shoulder, just with reduced intensity or controlled contact, if we can put it that way. You got a teammate coming at you at 50%. Ask him to, you can, in the beginning, maybe make it just straight lines, and then ask them, after that, you tell them to bring in a bit of footwork. But imagine you do 10 reps after each training session, and you got, say, you're training on Monday, Tuesday, and say a Thursday. That's 30 reps in the week, 15 reps each side. And just by doing that, it's that simple. It's not in a fancy drill. It's not like, okay, I do 2 heats, then I'm doing a ruck, and then I'm carrying a ball, and then I'm running sprints. There's a time and a place to combine all of that. And then the same as conditioning, your fitness. If you want to enjoy the game, if you want to carry the ball as much as possible, if you want to be able to break the line, and you've identified space and have that speed actually to attack that space, you need to be fit. So what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to your skill acquisition, your word, Ben, I love using that, and you need to repeat those efforts, and it's simple. And another example, and I'll hand it over to you afterwards, Ben, is passing. You've mentioned it before. Just passing is probably one of the most boring exercises you can do. Imagine 2 players standing 5 meters apart, doing 10 passes to the left, 10 passes to the right, taking a few steps back, moving to 7 meters, to 10 meters, to 15 meters, and focusing on passing precision. That's very boring. But what's the result? at a later stage, your passing improves, and then you can evolve it as well. You and a teammate just running, low intensity running, but focusing on doing passing with movement. But anyway, I'm going to hand that over to you, Ben.
No, it's good. It's good stuff, G. And I think that. So some of if we summarise some of the key takeaways, I really feel like too many amateur coaches and semi-professional coaches try and copy the professional game to their detriment, and the players do as well. So to your point just now, they see an offload, they see Sonny Bill Williams do this incredible offload, and they try and copy that, and they spend a disproportionate amount of time trying to copy an offload instead of actually doing the bread and butter of what they're going to do 85-90% of the time in a game. Like you said, tackling, running straight, running hard, being well conditioned, the things that are the big building blocks instead of just the add-ons at the top. And from a coaching point of view, we had Richie Gray on, who was amazing, and then before that we've had Gary Gold, and he talked about when he went to the US and how he had to transition the situation very, very quickly. He didn't have the luxury of time to put in a complex system, and he had people coming from all over geographically, so it was very, very difficult. So what did he do? He built a very simple game plan. They had a couple of starter plays. It was that basic. And then they just layered things on gradually as the rugby IQ increased, and as there was more cohesion, and as he was more familiar with what the players were capable of. And Victor Matfield referenced Heine Kameya talking to him and you guys as a team, and he wanted to call a line out, and mate, you explain this way better than me. So if you want to jump in now and explain that story with Victor and just remind us of what Heineke said to Victor at that time.
So yeah, basically in terms of that one, Heine Kameya was very precise. When we had a game plan, everybody just needed to execute their role at 100%. And whenever players respected it, and it was very simple, where you would give us specific targets. If I needed to get 5 dominant tackles, if I had to do that, that would help the team. So in that specific instance which you're talking about, Victor came back from the box, and obviously he and Jake weren't seeing eye to eye. And it was all about getting the maul started. And Heineke said to Victor, get the ball in front and get it started. We're going to start with the ball in front. And that was the plan. But then when Victor came on, the first line that he called was right at the back. And then Gary Botha missed it. And then he tried it again, and he missed it again. So obviously for Victor, the ball right at the back, that's the best call. And Heineke took him off. And Victor was very upset with that. And Heineke basically said, you know what? Our plan was to throw it in front. And then Victor said, but why did you take me off? Gary missed the throw. It was open. He said, no, but that wasn't the plan. We needed to build up confidence. We need to keep it simple. We will build our momentum. And that's always been the success with the Bulls, Ben. We would keep it very simple. Heineke will say, break the wall, hurt them, create momentum. At some stage, the damn wall's going to break. We always say that in Afrikaans, die dam wal gaan breek. So that is the main thing.
And I think that's where so that was 20 plus years ago, and it still applies today. And we just saw that with the Lions, and that's the purpose of this podcast. We've just seen it's still relevant. So the Lions, they in the first test, they got into the 22, they kept the ball for 3 phases, and they scored. They didn't have to do anything complex. It was just a case of doing the basics, wearing down the defence, being consistent with what you do. You carry hard, like you said, physicality, aggression. You carry hard, you clean well, you do those basics very well, and eventually they'll run out of defenders. And it's that simple. And similarly, throwing to the front of a line out. It doesn't matter if they know, like you said with Corey Flynn, it doesn't matter that they know what you're going to do, because you're going to all do it really well. You're going to do it to the best of your ability. 23 people know exactly what they have to do at the exact same time. It doesn't matter. And finally, the final point about doing the boring stuff, so many times I've seen amateur coaches or amateur players, and they train something all week, and they'll have a line out in their match, and it will be on the right hand side, and they'll be able to maul, and they'll maul 20 meters, and then the next line out comes along, and as you're watching from the sideline, you think, oh, surely they're going to maul again. But because they've practiced like 3 or 4 complex moves, they try and go through the full arsenal of moves. They go through the full armory. instead of just going, okay, but let's just do the boring thing again. It worked. Let's just do it again. Let's do it effectively. We all know what we're doing. Keep it simple. And as the guy said, simplicity done brilliantly
leads to greatness.
Boom. It's that simple.
Yeah. But Ben, I can give you a great example. I think it was last season, one of our games at La Rochelle. We were dominating in the mall, and we had to win the game, and it was very simple. All we needed to do is get another maul going and get the penalty and to get the 3 points to kick it over. So what did the players do? The players called a set piece play to go wide. And we were in the coaching box like, what are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking? Keep it simple. We are dominating in the maul. Get the penalty and kick it over.
So maybe I'm being really harsh on amateur players because it's all players, It's basically, and maybe I'm forgetting what it's like to be a player, and it's actually sometimes in the heat of the moment you get excited and you're fatigued and stuff. But yeah,
I think just to maybe set amateur players at ease and semi-professional players at ease. Professional rugby players make mistakes too. And sometimes they are not keeping simple. They're always sometimes trying to go for the extravagant option. We see this a lot. The skip pass. In the modern day game, the skip pass works very rarely. Unless you are Toma Ramos that can give a 20-meter pass and he sees the space, it's on, and you got the Blair Kinghorn that's right there and is ready to attack that space. It's different. It's different. But
and it has to be on the money as well. It has to be.
It's got to be on the money. And that's what players don't realize. But Ben, just quickly, I just want to touch base on something because it ties into what we're saying that we're going to sign off to keeping it simple and simplicity.
Yeah.
Simplicity done brilliantly leads to greatness. Sometimes we get overwhelmed when we are chasing our goals to become great or to become the best player in the competition, or we want to really level up our performance, or we want to be dominant in a scrum. This I've experienced with players that I've mentored. So I've got this great online coaching program called the Scrum Dominator Mindset. So helping players and teaching them my frameworks, my processes, and taking them through the whole game plan to become a dominant scrummager. And what I've realized over the years of experience, because players are chasing that dominance in the scrum, when they don't achieve it, one, they start to get frustrated. Like say, after 4 weeks, if they're not dominant in the scrum, they get frustrated. They start to doubt themselves, doubt their abilities. Then that head talk starts. Then they start to get all over the place. Then I always tell them, just keep it simple. Do your work-ons, do your analysis, prepare yourself for your scrum session. That's it. The rest will take care of itself. Just master those simple things. And even the work-ons that players do, Ben, it's not this rocket science training sessions or training drills. It's 1v1s. It's hitting the sled. It's doing some core work. Some doing some elastic work. Very simple. And I think it's important that everybody, whether you are a rugby player, whether you're a coach, whether you're a purpose-driven human being, striving to achieve something great in your life, when you see that a gap between where you are right now and greatness is still a long way to go, that's okay. Keep it simple. Focus on what you can control. Just break it down. It's a simple thing. Ben, I'm always like, what do you call 100%. It? An accordion. John McFarland, my former Bulls coach and defense coach, he said, gee, you're like an accordion. You always lose weight, pick up weight, lose weight, pick up weight. You like go thin and fat, thin and fat. And that's me. But like me now, right now, I'm still trying to lose my South African weight and I'm getting there slowly. But it's simple. I'm just being mindful in terms of what I'm eating. I'm making sure I'm getting good sleeping because I'm getting 5 hours of sleeping. That's going to help my fat loss. And then it's just training, making sure I'm at least doing my 5 to 6 training sessions a week. It's that simple. And I'm just repeating it every single week. And some days are going to be better than others. But yeah, Ben, anything else from your side before
on that one? Yeah, just finally on that one, it reminds me of our episode with Anthony Watson as well, because those small daily actions they compound, and as he spoke about,
compound interest.
Yeah, and
I'm loving this pod. I'm learning new words.
Yeah, so that's If you haven't listened to that, I'd go and advise you to check out the episode with Anthony. And that's another brilliant episode. And also the people that we've referenced today, the episodes, there's a brilliant one with Gary Gold. Richie Gray spoke about this same thing about simplicity done brilliantly leads to greatness. The episode with Victor Matfield as well. All of these people, why we're talking about this topic as well is it's come up with so many of the people that we've interviewed, and it's not coincidence. It's not coincidence at all. There's a lot of common sense being spoken by some of the best, and if I was listening, I'd go, okay, if it comes up once, comes up twice, comes up 3 times, okay, right, there must be something in this from some of the best in the world. Let me go and investigate.
No, for sure. No, that's great. Ben, I think before we sign off, I think it's very important also to let everybody know. Both of us are now on the platform called School. All right, that's a great community app and platform, allows us to connect online, offline, away from social media. Social media is important, but maybe just give people some insights. What you're up to on School at the moment and how they can get the link to your private community.
Yeah, I'm excited about school.com. It's an amazing platform that allows us to build a community. All the stuff that we need is already in there. So it allows people, it's very easy to access. They can join for free, which is amazing. They can just come and interact with us. They can give us feedback. They can ask questions. We have lives. We had one with you on your platform a couple of nights ago. That was amazing. It just allowed people to interact, ask us questions. How would you do this? How would you deal with these types of players if you were coaching them? How would you model this session? What would you tweak? And so we had that live interactive chat, which was amazing. There's just so many aspects to it. We're looking forward to growing it. Both you have a platform, I have a platform, a community, and then we also have a community for the Lessons from the Game podcast. Yeah. So you can come there, you'll be able to, we're building it still, but you'll see an inventory of the pods and the interviews we've had. Yeah. And you can give feedback and ask questions and tell us who you'd like to have on the pod. So it's really exciting. I'm genuinely excited of how we can serve people more and help people more and be just more interactive with people and really grow and learn as well ourselves. And I'm learning loads because I'm rubbish on the tech side of things.
No, it's brilliant. I'm also enjoying the platform as well. And in terms of my community, Coach G Level Up, we're talking about the topics that we love, scrums, rugby, mindset and resilience, and obviously our podcast Lessons from the Game. And what I'm trying to tell the audience, Ben, is when on our communities, post, share, like, it's like we're trying to create a team environment where people are encouraging each other, inspiring each other, and also knowing it's a safe space. You can share your vulnerabilities, you can share your weaknesses, your faults, your flaws, and we don't judge. So very simple. I think, Ben, they can access your community either by DMing you or it's in your bio, if I'm not mistaken.
100%. Yep.
Okay. And if you want to access my community on School, it's very simple. You can just DM on Instagram to my personal account, Coach G. You can, or GG Steenkamp, just DM the words School, SKOOL. And you will receive an automated message that gives you the link and access directly. But please also be patient. When you do request access to our private communities, we actually need to accept it. We've turned off the auto acceptance because it just makes us easier to manage people coming in that's trying to spam and trying to be disruptive in the community. But that said, Ben, this was an unbelievable podcast, and I just feel like going on. There's so much we can talk about, but yeah, it's the great thing about podcasting and loving this, man. And I'm improving my vocabulary. That's awesome.
We both are. We both are.
Hopefully one day I can be like Andrew Trimble, because his wife apparently said, life after rugby was good for him because he became more articulate. So hopefully I can be more articulate and not.
And I think interesting as well, more diverse, and so it's good to hear, isn't it? There's hope.
Yeah. All right, guys, that said as well, we also just want to ask you guys to like, follow, and subscribe to our show, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, or on Apple Podcasts. Please, if you have the ability to leave us a comment, that would be great. It will allow us to have some instant feedback and also see what you guys are looking for and what type of content you are looking for on the show. Help us grow the show. And also, if you know of anyone that can help us to take the show to the next level, let us know. That's us. Ben, have an awesome day, and we'll chat soon.
Cheers, G. Thanks, mate. You too.